What's up, guys? Welcome to Operation B, the podcast. I am your host, Jamie Thurber, and I am here to take you on a journey of deepening, of expansion, of understanding more about who you are and why you're here and how to operate in an optimal way that allows you to do what you want to do, feel how you want to feel, take care of yourself truly, and support everything that your heart desires. What's up, guys? Holy shit, here we are back. We are back podcasting. We are going to call it season 2. And we're doing that because there was a large gap right in between. And a lot has happened. So much good stuff has happened. So much crazy stuff, so much bad stuff. When I say good stuff, it's been hard stuff, but things that you're going to want to hear about, things that I can't wait to share with you, things that I know were meant to happen to lead me to this deeper part of the conversation, which, I mean, our conversations have always been quite deep, friends, but we are definitely taking it to another level. So you have known this as the Lifestyle Creation Podcast. Get shit done, intentional living. Of course, my computer makes sounds out of my control. I don't even know where that sound came from. Anyway, all of that. Lifestyle creation, intentional living. That is what we do. That is what we've been talking about. My last episode was last June of 2023. So it is October 1st today, friends. And which is the start of my birthday season, which is the start of what I consider to be kind of my own new year. And I did not plan for this to be the day that I'm recording this, but it worked out that way because you know how your girl believes in the universe and synchronicities and all that jazz. So here we are, and here I am, ready to tell you about the change that's happened. I found myself in a place where I had to rewrite or reestablish the way I was doing everything basically in my life. Because the way I had been doing it was hurting me in a lot of ways. I've discussed this in past episodes. It's not a secret that I've dealt with health issues for a very long time. We've gone back, we've done the timelines. The doctor's like, do the timeline. I need to know what happened. And I wrote a timeline back to second grade when a lot of this stuff first showed up. And it's just been a story that I will go into on another episode. But along that, what I realized was I had to slow down and restructure the way I was doing everything. And what that really meant was I had to remove the structure for the most part. The girl who planned everything, the girl who is proactive about everything, the girl who gets shit done had to stop doing as much shit. And I struggled with it. I thought I knew what rest was. I think we all think we know what rest is. And then we actually do it for the first time. And we're like, whoa, that was very different than the quote unquote form of stress or of rest. I mean, that I would do where I was sitting there. Sure, I was sitting, but all I was thinking about was the 75,000 things I was supposed to be doing, or the list I could make, or the this or the that, or the thing I owed this guy, or this person's waiting for that. And why didn't I call that person back? Or blah, 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 all the things. It just didn't ever stop. And I know that that's very common for many of you. It's common for many of us. We come from a world that's kind of designed and made us that way of constant contact, constant stimulation, constant things flashing in your face, all this instant gratification, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I had to rewrite the rules for myself. And I was doing it and it was struggly and it wasn't pretty at all. And thank God I have a coach and a very supportive partner. And I finally found a doctor or two that are helping. But during that process, I found myself sitting in my living room with my dog, looking at the TV from like, I don't even know how many episodes of shows I had worked my way through at that point. And thought, oh my God, what am I going to say to the people on the other side of this? Now, what I mean when I say the people, I mean you. I mean the interwebs. For you guys know the reason I'm here, the reason I record the podcast is because once upon a time, a bajillion years ago, I started sharing my stories and my soul on Facebook and through blogging, and it has turned into all these things that you now know as Jamie Thurber, the Get Shit Done girl, the intentional living girl. And I found myself sitting in my living room, very intentionally doing no things. I was very intentionally tracking every health thing you could think of, very intentionally um, doing no things. Like that was intentional, but the getting shit done part, it made me feel like a fraud. During that time, if you follow me on social, you know that I kind of went silent. Like I would occasionally share things. A lot of them were memories that I would just reshare from previous, or dog pictures because, well, who doesn't love dogs? And well, in my world, at least everybody does. And my puppies, and the history I've had with I lost my two babies very close together. Mac from cancer, which we knew about, and obviously went through all the struggles of his treatments. And then Bonnie was um, she was fine that morning and then died that evening. It was terrible, both of which broke my heart and has still something that we're trying to make sense of, really, of not having those babies. So during that, anyway, back to that point, as I'm sitting there going, oh my, what? There was a bit of imposter syndrome. There was a bit of like, holy shit, like, what am I going to say to people when I do feel better and I feel like I can talk to the world again? In full spirit of full transparency, I still don't really feel better. I do feel better than I did then. I feel better than the worst I've ever felt. I still have bad days. Luckily, I have found myself a really great new process for recording and for promoting things to where it's going to take a lot less out of me. And so that is why I'm sitting here talking to you now. Um, and a way that's had to make it work, which is really what I've had to do. And so in that moment of me thinking, oh my God, like a huge piece of my identity was how much I could get done and how much I could help other people get done and how much I could get them to be the most productive, happy versions of themselves. And all of that was still true. But now my body was telling me, my soul was telling me, my reality was telling me I had to find a better and different way to do that. A way that didn't have as much pressure on me, a way that wasn't as demanding, a way that wasn't as hurting, a way that actually supported what my body and soul needed versus what I was supposed to do or quote unquote should do, the shoulding that's happening all over the world. Well, I should do it this way, and blah, 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 right? So in that moment, I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? Obviously, I'm not going to stop cussing because here I am dropping the bombs. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. So I had this moment, and I've toyed with this years ago, toyed with as I'd gotten deeper into the spirituality side, as I'd gotten deeper into helping my clients really learn about their own human behavior and their own patterns and all those things. It's very much a status of not doing, but more being. Like, who are we? What are you being? Like, who is the person you're bringing to the table? Not what are you doing? It's who are you? What do you be versus what do you do? And so once in a conversation with my friend Catherine, we said, dude, eventually this is going to turn into Operation B, not Operation Do. So Operation Do was a program that I ran for a really long time. And again, it was all around planning and productivity and focusing on every area of life in a certain way each week and making sure that you were creating as much balance as is possible. I mean, full balance is typically not a thing, but there's a way to make sure you're stepping foot in each area every day. And that was really the focus. And it was doing, and we did a lot. You can ask the people who were on my team. We did so much. So much so that it allowed me to not have to sit in the uncomfortableness of what was physically happening inside of my body. So in the moment of, oh my God, what am I going to say to the people? I felt a really interesting calm come over me. And I realized it's Operation B. That's what it is. That's the new stage. That's the new place we're going. And with that, I realized that I was not in a place where I could articulate the words to you or to anyone, really in depth of what that meant, that transition between do and be meant. And I feel like I am still unraveling it to an extent. That was probably 6 months ago that I had that moment. And a lot has changed, some hasn't. But I'm finally feeling a little bit of capacity returning for creativity with my words. During that time, I learned how to crochet, and I am a crocheting monster. I look, I for the video, I have this cute little strawberry that brings me joy that I crocheted that sits on my desk. Anyways, shout out to Woobles. If you want to learn how to crochet, get a Wooble kit, and then I can tell you where else to go from there to learn the other things you need to know. But again, another story for another day. I want to keep this about the Operation B. So crocheting required me to be focused on what was in my hands, not on what was coming next, not on what happened before, not on what ifs and maybes and shoulds, but on a stitch. And with that, it kept me very present. It kept me very engaged in the right now, in the being versus in the shoulds, do's, anxiety, all that fun stuff. Um, And given the gravity of what I've gone through physically and all the crazy things we've found that are happening inside of my body, given that it's not been a very positive deal most of the time. There's been a lot of frustration, a lot of me learning that it's okay to be frustrated and to let the frustration out in ways that I never have before, and to ask for help in ways that I never have before, and actually let people help me. Crazy, right? But I remember so the same girl has been doing my hair for, God, I don't even know how long, but we've known each other since high school. We she we had friends that boyfriends dated, our boyfriends were friends and whatever. Anyway, she's done my hair forever, so she knows all my stories. She knows every secret. She knows where all the skeletons are. She knows everything. And she's like a vault, which I love. She doesn't tell anybody any of my secrets, but it just happened to be that day I was going to her to get my hair colored and get my hair cut. I sat down in the chair and she said, "Well, what are we doing today?" And I said, "I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question right now." And she's like, "What do you mean you're not qualified to answer that question right now?" I said, "I don't really like much about myself at the moment physically." Something that I didn't say is that I've gained over 50 pounds during this healing process, which is not a terrible thing because I was always struggling to gain weight before because of how sick I was. But when you can't work out or really do much physically and you gain weight, where does it all go? Places that you don't want it to go. So just an adjustment process, right? So and I have short hair now, which I'm still not used to, even though it's been 2 years since I took my extensions out. And yeah, I don't always recognize the girl in the mirror. I'm still really, establishing my relationship with that. And so I sat in her chair. She's like, "What do you want to do today?" I said, "I'm not freaking qualified to answer that question because I, I don't know. I don't know, but something." So she, did some trims and she added in a little bit of color to add a little bit of that red, that I used to have that brings me a little life back into me. And we had a great conversation. I felt better. I went to go sit under the dryer, and there's a woman walks by that is a friend. Her husband and my Tony. Her husband's name is Tony also. Um, have known each other forever. And anyway, I hadn't seen her in forever, but she had been going through something cancer related. And I'd seen her post about it. My capacity for engaging at that moment, it's still very small. I don't have a lot of capacity to engage a lot with people right now. But when she was going through the muck of what she was going through, I had no capacity to engage. So I would send the love, I would send the prayers, but I just was unable to engage. And so I happened to see her. And she said, before she even noticed I was sitting there, she said, "Oh, I don't have a cane today. That's a great thing." Turns out she ends up coming and sitting down. And I mentioned to her, or sitting at the same dryer I was when I was done and leaving. So she had time to chat. I chatted with her. And in that conversation, I realized she is also a woman who does everything. Her husband owns a business. She helps with that. She has several children who are grown, who also have children. She helps with them. She's very active. She has hobbies, and her and her husband have a beautiful relationship, and they travel and they go on date nights and they do all these things. And she's the woman who does everything, right? So many of us carry that. We do it all. And then we get sick. or we've been sick forever, like in my case, and we have to finally stop doing everything for everyone because we have to focus on ourselves and our own health. And the buttload of stuff that comes along with that is big and unexpected, and nobody talks about it. And so she told me a story about how she'd felt like really emotional. And she's like, I'm done with chemo, so I don't know why I'm still feeling emotional, but I felt really emotional. I just didn't want to be by myself. So I called my husband and I ended up riding around in the truck with him all day while he was working. And like, luckily, that's a great relationship. He was more than happy to go get her. Like she didn't hinder anything by any means. He probably would have just stayed home with her if that's what she would have wanted. But in listening to that story, I realized, and I shared with her, what I'd been going through too. And to me, I'm like, would never compare what I'm dealing with to someone who has cancer. But in that moment with her, knowing what I had been experiencing, she did. And that's a woman who has cancer. So I'm like, okay, well, she can compare the two because she has cancer. But you'll learn in later episodes as I talk more about what I've been unraveling is how often we play down our own experiences when they actually are big. So anyway, in that moment and in that conversation, I realized and I shared with her, this is what I'm going to talk about. What I need to talk about is the being. It's in the unraveling of the things. It's in the times that our identity gets changed or compromised, quote unquote. It's not even compromised, but it just isn't what we're used to. We get put in these situations where we have all this emotional stuff coming from a physical illness or a physical thing or whatever it is. And nobody talks about the toll that takes. Nobody talks about the toll that cancer takes on your emotions or on your relationships. Nobody talks about the toll that chronic illness or chronic pain takes on your mental state, on the way that you interact with people, on your triggers, on your traumas. It's a trauma all by itself. And what does it impact your nervous system and anxiety? And the story goes on and on. Hence the reason why I'm really excited about starting to record this for you guys, because I have a never-ending list of topics. Because it is something that no one's talking about is how do we deal with the struggly things? Like really deal with them, not push them down, not push past them, but deal with them, sit with them, heal them at their root and still feel like ourselves and know that it's okay if we don't feel like ourselves, right? And know that that doesn't make us any less us than we were. Like I saw this quote and I can't remember who said it, but it was something about, oh, it was Pink. And her point was very different than what my point is of this comment. So hear me out before you judge. It's at the beginning of this interview and she says something about how you tell women to be smaller and be still. And that's not, that's nothing. And I don't believe in that. I don't want to be smaller, but I had to be still. I had to slow down. I had to be still for this healing. And a lot of healing requires that. A lot of transformation requires, like, look at a butterfly. They get very still. It's what has to happen for the transmission. I like flashback to car shops. Woo! That was a whole nother life, friends. The transformation that we have to go through sometimes requires stillness and it requires to slow down, but it does not require us to be smaller or less of ourselves than we are when we're at our very best. And I think that right there, that statement is key. And that's a big moment for us to fully understand, like, we're allowed to be all of these versions of ourselves, sometimes at the same time. Sometimes we got to put, like, my drill sergeant girl, she got to hang out over here. She can drill sergeant me on this giant thing of pills I have to take every day. They're supplements, but still, she can drill sergeant that, but she doesn't drill sergeant how I'm operating and how the pressure I'm putting on myself anymore, because she had her time and place, and right now is not it. And that does not mean that I'm any smaller than I was when I was yelling, get shit done. It doesn't mean that I'm any less of me as this more zen, calm version of myself that sits in front of you today. If anything, I feel like we become more of ourselves when we allow for these slow, calmer, quiet transitions to occur, because that's parts of what we really are meant to do here. I know for me, these transitions, and you guys have been with me through a lot of things, like Iowa. Whew, we're going to do a whole episode about that too. Finally, I'm going to have someone interview me about that experience because I think it's important to share. But that rocked my world, right? And from the outside looking in, a lot of people had a lot of negative things to say about it. And I don't have anything negative to say about it because it changed everything about me. What I don't know if you can see, those of you who are watching the video, is when I mentioned Bonnie earlier, the light flickered. Um, when I mentioned Iowa being a good thing and changing everything about me, the light flickered. So we'll take that as nice little messages that I'm on point. Anyway, so friends, I would like to formally welcome you to a new chapter, a new season. We're going to call it season 2, but let's be real, it's just a new season, and we'll see how it goes from here. It may be a new season that's 37,000 episodes. I don't know. We'll see. But season 2, and what comes with season 2 is we are changing the name from, it will no longer be the Lifestyle Creation Podcast. It will now be known as Operation B, the podcast. And there will be other Operation B things coming down the pipeline, I think, as I continue to get more healthier and have more capacity. But for now, here we are, and this is what we're doing. And I'm really excited about it. And I hope that you guys are excited and that you'll continue to tune in. As always, what allows this podcast to exist is my brain and my motivation. And, I pay out of my business to host this. And so what you can do is, if you feel so inclined, is to make sure that you're following the podcast, that you're sharing it with people, and that you go over to iTunes and leave us a review. Those are the things that allow this to continue to happen and allow this to get into the hands of as many people as it can, because truly, I believe these things have happened to me and I've gone through them because other people need these stories. Other people need this so that they can keep going also. So I want to do that together. I want that to be the mission. That's what Operation B is. We're not going away from the things that you heard in the intro today. That is still what we are. And this is the deeper version. So when you come back for the next episode and you hear a different intro, don't be alarmed. Stay tuned. It's going to get better and better every time. I still stand by everything I've ever said in any training or podcast or anything I've been in interviews. I still stand by it all, meaning I don't regret a thing. I just now know a little bit better ways to do some of those things. I know things to look for and things to adjust so that we don't have burnout, so that we don't get chronic illnesses because we ignored ourselves for so long, or, so many other things. So I hope that you're here with me. I hope that you will follow me into Operation B and that you will give all the love and accolades to the Lifestyle Creation Podcast and the Operation Do and the Get Shit Done, because they are it, and they formed this in such a beautiful way, and they were necessary and beautiful parts of the journey. And I can't wait to take you through the rest of it. So until next time, friends, see ya. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share the podcast wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.